it's just about nighttime. We've got an engine failure. My wife's in the back of the plane. I'm with a kid that's younger than me, and we've got to land this plane, and I'm trying to find the airport.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm joined by Barney. Adam, welcome to Runway Life.
Glad to be here.
I know you've got a pretty storied history for flying. Pretty awesome one, to be honest. I think you're the only person I know that has had 3 incidents or been involved in 3 incidents inside of general aviation and is still up and walking around. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope I still have more 9 lives left.
Yep, that's it. We will probably break this up into 3 different episodes. So let's roll into episode 1, which is going to be a pretty interesting story. We'll get to it in the long run, but tell me, how long have you been inside of aviation? When did you get your pilot's license?
I got my pilot's license later than I would have liked. I wish that I would have had the money and time to do it earlier, but I think I started at 28 learning how to fly, and it was just a fluke, really. I'm a mechanical engineer, so I've always been interested in aviation. It's always been something cool, and I like cars and boats and all those crazy things. Yeah. So the mechanical side of it is really what drove me. But I was out with a coworker who was a pilot, and I'd known him for a few years, and he's like, hey, we're going down to executive. I'm going to go to this barbecue lunch. And, you know, it's a flight school. I'm like, I'll go with you. It's fine. And then next thing I knew, I signed up for a lesson the following week and was there at 7 a.m. And they asked me, do you want to do a discovery flight? And I was like, no, let's just start. Let's just go. And within 6 months, I had a pilot's license and was starting my instrument training. So
heck yeah.
It was really cool. And then it's an addiction. I've got a pretty addictive personality, good or bad. And it just grabbed a hold of me.
Yep. So what was the first plane that you bought?
So I have, and if I get too long-winded, just cut me off, but I've got 17 hours in a Cessna 172.
Okay.
And I forget the name of the flight school, but they went out of business, and they were kind of a little sketchy. They were always wanting me to put an extra $5,000 on my credit card, and they kept bouncing me around between all these different 172s. And then finally we had to pick up an Aero in Boca, and it was a night flight, and I got in the Aero, and I was like, this is the coolest plane I've ever been in. It was so fast, right? I was doing solid 128 knots. Yep. I was like, this is crazy. So the flight school went defunct. So I talked to my instructor and said, hey, he's a young guy. He was 24. I was 28. I said, will you teach me outside of the school? And he was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I bought an Aero from this place in North Carolina, 1965 Piper Aero, not Aero 2, not Aero 3, just 180 horse. And that's what I got my private in, and I've had it ever since. I actually just sold it 2 months ago.
Yeah, I know. I still cry about it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I
wanted to buy that.
Yeah, man, I wish you would have. When I first bought it, she was rough looking. And I'll give you some photos you can throw up and stuff. But she was really rough. But I flew that one to California and back. I did some high altitude training out there, landed it on a dry lake bed. It did some really cool stuff with that airplane. I landed it. When we were doing the high altitude training, we were going through all the numbers, and there were a few airports I couldn't land at because if I landed, I didn't have enough runway to take off.
Right.
We flew out of Mammoth, and that's a 10 or 11,000 foot runway, and I chewed up 7,500 foot of runway taking off at a 9,000 foot density altitude.
Yeah.
And the density altitude chart in that thing at 6,500 foot of density altitude, it just drops off. There isn't, so you got to interpolate everything. So we're running the numbers, and I could make that airport, but there were a couple that I just couldn't do. But
right.
Yeah.
Now that was the first plane that you had, your first incident in, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me what happened there.
All right. So I'm a low time pilot. I got my private. I think I was less than 100 hours at this point in time, and I rolled right into instrument. And same instructor. We're on an instrument cross country flight. We were going up to St. Simon Island, to get some barbecue. We were going to have dinner there, and we were going to come back. And I really enjoyed flying at night then, and I still do, but after further incidents, we can discuss why I'm a little bit more cautious about that and have certain personal minimums that I've put in place. But so we're in the plane. It's probably 7:30. It's civil twilight. They just transferred us over to Daytona Approach. My wife's in the back seat. This is, 15 years ago now, 14 years ago. And I noticed just a little bit of oil coming up over the front cowling, like about that much.
Right.
And I look at my instructor. I was like, "Do you see that?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then I look down at the alternator gauge, and it's doing one of these numbers. And I'm like, "What would cause that to happen?" And I think, this is a bigger conversation, but going into why things happen in a plane, pilots need to be more aware of the mechanical side of things in order to diagnose a problem before it becomes a problem.
Right.
Or then when there is a problem, to understand it and be able to solve it, or at least plan ahead for what is going to happen. We need to be better as pilots and learn more. So I see that oil. I see the alternator gauge. I'm like, we got an oil leak somewhere. And he looks at me and he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Let's turn back." We were just north of DeLand, south of Daytona, kind of heading at a 10-degree angle off towards St. Simon. Turn the plane around and immediately hear a buzz. And the main line that goes from the prop governor to the engine, it runs up underneath the block and then comes out and hits the prop. Right. Well, that's the high pressure oil line from the prop governor. It had ruptured. It had broken in half right at the prop, and that's a common, I guess not a common, but a known fault that there's an FAA circular out or whatever on, and it was supposed to have been replaced. Was never caught by any mechanics. Was never changed out. Mm-hmm. It was a vibration issue. It sheared off. All the oil from the entire motor went onto the windshield, and the prop, went to its pitch setting, right? Yeah. So went to a very, very, very fine pitch, and which was good. And the motor kept running with zero oil pressure. Right. So now we're in a situation, right? We weren't high. We were like 4,500 feet, so 4,000 feet. I'm sorry. We were on an instrument cross country. And declared an emergency immediately. I declared the emergency. And my instructor, God love him, he was younger. I could tell he was nervous. And I'm talking to Daytona Approach. I'm doing comms. He took over flying. And they're like, "Can you make it to DeLand?" And DeLand was 25 miles away. And I said, "No, it's not going to happen," because we didn't know how long the engine was going to last without oil, right? Which it's amazing how robust aircraft engines are. So pulled the power back. We're kind of barely at a minimum power setting to maintain altitude. So they directed us towards Pearson, Florida. Right. Grass strip, plenty of length. I think what's Pearson, 4,000 feet, something like that. Never done a soft field landing in my life as a student or as a private pilot, right? Yep. Everything's been simulated. So it's just about nighttime. We've got an engine failure. My wife's in the back of the plane. I'm with a kid that's younger than me, and we've got to land this plane, and I'm trying to find the airport. So going back to ForeFlight, I've located it on ForeFlight because I had a 430 in this thing. There's no moving map, but located it on ForeFlight and spiraled down over top of the airport and did the first soft field landing I'd ever done. Landed the plane, thankfully, without incident. Taxied up to the airplane parking, got out, and, prayed to whatever God everybody prayed to at the time that we actually made it. Because you couldn't see. That was the problem. There was oil over the windscreen. So it was crazy. It really, really was. Everybody stayed calm. It was a good situation. It was the best situation it could have been. Airplane was relatively undamaged other than needing a total engine overhaul. But the cool thing that came out of that, other than the aviation side of it, is there was a mechanic on the field doing an annual on a glider. Right. And the guy walks over, big, tall funny looking guy, and I'm going to send him this podcast when we're done with it too. And he looks at me and he's like, "You mind if I take a look? You had a problem." And I was like, "I don't give a what you do." I was like, "You can light that airplane on fire." And he pulls off the bonnet and he looks at it and he's like, "Okay, well, there's your problem right there." So that guy's name is EJ Maynard, and he works for Embry-Riddle as one of their lead mechanics in their experimental, division. And he has become one of my best friends in this world to date. So, and he did all the annuals on the aircraft. He pulled the motor out. We changed the engine in the field in Pearson 6 months later. It was just, I hate to say it, but it was a very cool experience. It was a horrible experience, but as far as learning as a pilot, not only am I a private aircraft owner, but now I'm learning the expense of being a private aircraft owner, the maintenance of being a private aircraft owner, and then I did an assist on putting the engine back in my own airplane. So like I took it down
huge.
which is crazy, and it's huge, and I love doing it because of the engineering side, but the learning that I got out of that. I mean, I dropped it off at Don George, which is an engine building facility here in Orlando.
Right.
Did an awesome job, and Don was cool. He said, "When it comes time for me to tear it down, do you want to come up here?" And I said, "Heck yeah." So I got to go up there. I got to watch the engine being tore down, all the pieces, and he's pointing to things. He's pointing to bearings. He's like, "Man, you probably had 10 minutes left on this. You would never have made it to land. Your engine would have locked up, and who knows what would have happened at that point. That would have been an off-field landing."
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to do that again. So, it's an experience.
So you and I have talked about the luck and skill buckets after another incident, and we'll talk about that later. But that'll probably be episode 3.
I promise I'm a safe pilot. I promise. I really do my best. I
think it's one of those that, as we were talking about after that one, right? The luck and skill buckets. So you can talk about the luck and skill buckets for a second.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, when you start out, right, you got a lot of luck and a little skill, and you hope that you maintain at least one of those buckets till you get more skill. And I definitely had lots of luck in the beginning and very little skill. And I probably have very little skill now and lots of luck. But
I've seen your landings. There's a lot of skill involved in that on this runway. So.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if you can land at this runway competently, especially in a bigger plane, you can land anywhere, in my opinion, because of our crosswind and the rotor effect off of all the hangars. But it was definitely more luck than skill at the time. And, I think as you progress in your piloting career, the hope is that both buckets stay full, but, one bucket's going to go down, and hopefully the skill bucket is always improving and you're always trying to be a better pilot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, and not being too intense about it, but I think a lot of people get into this as a hobby, and yes, it can be a hobby, but you always have to be improving. This isn't something you can do as a weekend warrior and go out and fly 100 hours a year or 50 hours a year. I mean, I've seen people on crutches with casts on their legs get into planes, maybe not at this airport, but at other airports. And I'd never fly with these people that haven't flown in, 6 or 8 months, and they're just, "Well, I'm going to hop in the plane today." It's not a car. No. If I don't fly IFR for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I'm rusty. I can feel it. I can feel my radio calls are lacking, and my professionalism isn't what it should be. And you're always going to get screwed up and say one way instead of runway or something stupid like that. But, to lack on the skill side it can be deadly. It can be very, very deadly in this. And you only get a certain amount of screw ups
before the number's up.
Yeah. Yeah. And so after that, what I started to employ was I've got a 3-strike rule with myself, and I have not flown because of it. So, it could be something as simple as, forgetting my cup of coffee in the house, or forgetting to remove a chalk from a wheel. But if I do 3 stupid things, I won't fly.
Right.
I won't fly. And I always, after everything's done, I do a walk around the airplane. I call it my idiot check, because another time at the executive airport, I was getting ready to fly somewhere, I forget. And I'm in my aero. I was on the ramp then, didn't have a hanger. And there was a guy 2 planes over who started his plane and left one of the wings tied down. And he removed all the chocks and was trying to power out of the parking space. And the wing that was tied down was the one that was facing me. And my thought was that rope's going to break and he's going to hit me because he didn't pay attention. And I jump out of my plane and I'm flagging the guy down, totally oblivious. He has no idea what's going on. But that's the idiot check that you got to do when you fly an airplane, because it's that chain of errors that happens. Or, you know, when you're having a stressful day and then you got to fly, right? Because I fly a lot to and from work visits with what I do, and if I'm stressed, if I am in a bad mental spot, I will just stop. And if it's an hour, if it's a half hour, whatever it is, I'll wait till I'm calmed down enough to get in that plane to fly, because that is the only thing that I need to be focusing on at the time.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. So what would you say are the top 3 things that you learned from the first incident with the arrow? Put you on the spot on that.
No, this is a good question. Top 3 things. Personally, I think it would be that I am not an invincible individual and that this airplane wants to kill me. I mean, it is, yes, it's like riding a horse, right? It's going to want to buck you off if something happens. So you have to treat it with the utmost respect and the diligence that if you are lacking, it's going to show you where you're weak. It will, whether that's on landing, whether that's on radio calls, whether that's on systems, whether your instrument scan isn't good enough, right? Yep. You're gonna get in that situation if you're a pilot that flies professionally or even treats it with a profession. It's going to show you. So that's probably 1. 2, maintenance is incredibly important. And even though someone says something's done on your airplane, we're all pilot in command, and it comes down to us, right? I don't care if it's somebody forgetting to hook up a hydraulic hose on your airplane and you lose hydraulics, or you forget to put the bags in your airplane on a trip. Like that's all your fault. And one's simple, you go to Kmart, Walmart, whatever, Kmart's still around, you buy new clothes, but the other one you're dead, you know? Right. And I would say that it's your responsibility. The buck stops with you no matter what. And there's very few things in this world in today's day and age that actually have that much consequence, right? Everybody, you know, you get a speeding ticket, you pay for your speeding ticket, you know, you don't pay your credit card, you get a fine, whatever, you get a late fee. But, you know, you screw up on an airplane, you're dead. Yeah. You know, maybe you're not dead. Worse, you kill somebody else and you don't kill yourself. That's the worst experience, in my opinion. Like I would hate to maim, hurt, injure somebody else. And then 3, what's 3? Personal minimums. So I will not fly a single engine airplane at night, specifically a piston. If I'm going to fly at night, I want a multi-engine piston or a turbine. I'd fly a single engine turbine, but I will not fly a single engine piston airplane at night. Call me a wuss, but I won't do it. There's too much. From an engineering perspective, there's just too much moving internal mass, and it's not in the right direction. You know, with a turbine, it's all spinning. You got bearings that could fail, but those engines are so reliable. Pistons, not so much. So those are probably my three biggest takeaways from that. So I get really leery about flying at night now, and I really enjoy it, but again, our airport's a black hole at night too. Like I mean, how many times you click those runway lights on, you're like, where is it? Is that it? You know, and you're overloading the visual approach on your Garmin so that you can at least find your 3-mile descent point. Oh, okay, there it is. Like you got to be lined up with 3.3 exactly to see it, in my opinion.
Yeah, so. No, I agree. It's she can be a fickle beast, this airport, at times. So.
Yeah, and you got a little bit of a hump and a couple other things, you know.
Yep.
Don't even talk to me about landing 1.5 at night.
Oh yeah. With
trees and railroad tracks and highways, but yeah.
Power lines.
Yeah. You know.
It's funny. Derek and I were having dinner with a friend of ours. A couple of months ago, probably, and he said the same thing. Well, he was an instructor here. He's like, no, I will not land 1.5 at night.
Yeah, I don't think I would. I've done it once a long time ago, and I've seen a lot of people. They'll come in at a weird angle to 1.5, right? They'll cut at a 45 and then straighten out, so they don't have to go over the trees. I've never done it, but I need to try it.
Yeah.
So I hit the trees and drop down real quick.
Yeah.
But
Well, if you want to go up and try it, I'll go up with you anytime.
yeah, we can go up. We can go up.
That'd be awesome. Okay, well, that should close out episode 1. Stay tuned for episode 2 next week. Take care and stay safe, everyone.